Welcome to the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Cranston. Today, I'm with a multi-time visitor to the podcast, but I'm sad to say will probably be his last in his role as Chief Mobility Officer for the state of Michigan. I wanted to use this opportunity to talk with Trevor Pawl one more time about all that's been accomplished with the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification in the past few years and what lies ahead for Michigan as he departs for some very exciting and personal adventures. So Trevor, thanks for taking time to be here.
It's hard to say goodbye. Jeff, what are we going to do? Can we still be friends?
We can. And
thank God.
Not in a virtual way. Even though you're going to try to be unplugged for a year, I guess.
Not fully unplugged. But yes, so I am indeed stepping down from my position, which is hard because I do love this job. I love the topic. I love our team. And the work has just been incredible to see play out. And I actually think this year is going to be a year of acceleration. Year of the rabbit, year of acceleration. But we actually are going to be taking a trip. We're going to be spending the majority of this year, me and my family, traveling. And just to give you a bit of background, so when me and my wife got married, we had said, hey, life is short, time is precious. And if we ever felt as though there was an imbalance, we needed to do something. And we actually set aside a savings account for a year of travel that we thought we'd use, like we were like 70 or 75 and, go to Vegas with it or something. But it turns out this year just had a lot of different things happen, health related things. We had some folks or some friends, I should say, pass away suddenly, healthy seeming friends. We're trying to spend more quality time with our kids before they start school next year. And so it made sense to move that year of travel up to this year. So I'm going to miss working with you. I'm going to miss working with MDOT. I'm going to miss all the partners out there and listeners who care about this topic so much. And hopefully we'll all see each other down the road somewhere.
Well, when you called to tell me, what I told you, and I think you heard from other people, maybe even surprised you how many people you heard it from. And that was, congratulations, you're wise beyond your years. You'll never regret this. And it's good that you guys were able to plan ahead and save. And I just think that as much as I'm going to miss you in this role, and I think all the good things you've been doing for the state will be missed, I think from a personal standpoint, you're really doing a good thing.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate that, Jeff. And like I said, I'm coming back to Michigan. I'm gonna still be in the mobility space, I hope. So this may not be the last time I'm on your podcast. Who knows? Maybe I can move up to co-host. What do you think?
Maybe, yeah. I think we can just launch another one, a related one on just future mobility.
Yeah, there you go. We
can be like the Bulwark, starting out with one and then springing into several podcasts. That's okay.
Boom. I can be the guy that kind of takes it off the rails with good humor. You can bring us back, keep us on topic. I think people would listen.
Okay, so many ideas. So before we get into achievements and all that you've been able to do with the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification, I guess I'm supposed to say of me, but that's always hard. Talk a little bit about, the future and where things are going. One thing we've never touched on in our various conversations is hydrogen and what Michigan is doing in that area is in terms of fuel cells. And, I know it's all conjecture at this point, but I'm curious about what you think the future is for that.
Yeah. So there are cases around the world where you need a higher heat energy and where, the larger the battery, the more of a liability electrification becomes. The vehicle gets too heavy. Any sort of corrosion could cause a larger issue. It's expensive. Think airplanes, think freighters, think big off-road equipment, think the things that move your bag from the airport to the plane, think big ag. Those are the sorts of things that require another solution at scale if we want to see true sort of clean emissions across various modes of transportation. That's where hydrogen comes in. And I should also add big 18-wheel trucks. and long haulers. I mean, that hydrogen is a great solution for that mode of transportation. Even rail, I could keep going. And so, hydrogen now is to a point where it is being commercialized. We, as North America, are a bit behind Europe and Asia on the topic, but we are catching up. And, the federal government is leading the way with a big $8 billion opportunity. They're going to be awarding various hydrogen hubs around the country. And Michigan, along with Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana, are actively working together to make sure that Michigan can capture those funds. And we actually have a 7-state MOU on hydrogen, just to make sure that the different states are talking, that best practices are shared, investment mechanisms are established. Because really, hydrogen, you think about charging, and charging will get better. I mean, right now it seems like it's a little long for most people's routines. Sometimes 30, 40 minutes, sometimes longer. But hydrogen very much resembles filling up at the pump right now. It's about that amount of time, and it's the same process. And so, if we can sort of get hydrogen out to more people, and granted, it may not always be the solution for SUVs and sedans, you can salvage some of the existing infrastructure that will likely change as electrification becomes more prevalent in our daily lives. So that's why hydrogen is interesting right now. And I should add, it's very much not just a transportation concept or conversation. It's something that goes sort of as far as you can go as it relates to built infrastructure and smart cities and how we power the grid. And it really does a nice job of linking nuclear and wind and some of these other methods into transportation and into clean energy. So yeah, that's it. That's what I know about hydrogen, Jeff.
Well, so based on what you know, what kind of conclusions would you draw? I mean, I know it's complicated and there's challenges, but are we going to go from the kinds of EVs, battery powered EVs and charging stations that we're talking about now to hydrogen sooner rather than later, and a kind of a change in the infrastructure?
So that's I was going to say $1 million question, but it's probably $1 trillion question. Are we looking at electrification as, say, we looked at compact discs? I don't think so, but it bears repeating that if we can figure out a way to commercialize clean hydrogen, it does allow us to then leverage more of our existing infrastructure. And the innovation around hydrogen can, for instance, provide more range than a battery at some point in the future. I would say the ceiling's a bit higher. But we have a long way to go. And I think one thing's for sure is, when you rely too much on only a few types of energy solutions, you're gonna sort of put bottleneck on the grid, put bottlenecks in the supply chain. And so our energy future needs to be hybrid. It needs to be a portfolio of different types of renewables. And hydrogen, to me, isn't the sole solution, much like electrification isn't. But when you combine them into a system, that's where you begin to create affordability. You begin to help more communities in a very real way when there's more options. So I don't know. It's exciting.
Well, since you made the CD compact disc reference, I think it bears pointing out that there's a lot of audiophiles and music lovers like myself who still prefer the analog sound of vinyl. So, nothing.
Didn't you you referred me to like a Crosby, Stills and Nash song the other day? I know your era.
Well, my daughter works in a huge vinyl record, very bohemian record store in Denver called Twist and Shout. So she's all about vinyl. So yeah, my point is maybe nothing ever becomes obsolete. There's an audience for it.
Well, that's absolutely right. I mean, I'll give you another example since we're just talking, and I may have mentioned this before, but like you look at the future of rail, is very much tied to the future of drones, because the way that we've set up our communities around rail lends itself very well to low air travel. And we can essentially mimic some of the rail lines in the sky, create skyways based on, what came before. And I think those situations, are out there all over the place. We just need to be creative enough to think about them.
Well, speaking of being creative, I think that what OFME has done in partnership with several other state agencies, not to mention many, many private partners, has showed a great deal of creativity the past few years. I really like the four ingredients that you've talked about in the OFME recipe: connectivity, partnership, investment, and sharing. But how about if we reel through some of the accomplishments, and as I give you each one, maybe just say a few words about each one and what you've done. Does that work?
Yeah, and actually, if I could add to it, I mean, what we're dealing with right now, and I may have mentioned this before too, at local government levels, state levels, federal levels, we're dealing with departmental structures that were built nearly a century ago in some cases, and we're dealing now with 21st century problems, challenges that require adaptation, which is why you're seeing joint offices of the DOE and DOT. OFME is a version of that. It's the governor and her team, which are thinking critically about sort of what the future needs, saying we need these bridge offices to ensure that we have proper coverage as the market changes, as communities change. So just the sort of the inception of this office by the governor, by her team, by the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation in partnership with MDOT, in partnership with the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy. I mean, it was really brilliant and it was really forward thinking. And I think it's played out quite nicely. But you're also seeing offices like there's an office for high-speed internet. There's an office for the outdoor recreation industry, and those are beginning to pick up steam. So this model seems to really be working. And again, like kudos to the team, kudos to the governor, kudos to the local partners that have sort of leveraged these new offices. And I think the best is yet to come. So yeah, let's rattle down the list.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you're so bullish on the future. Talk first about the establishing a state strategy for future mobility and the future mobility plan.
Yeah. So the really cool part of this strategy is it's more like an aggregator. Like I think there are great strategies all over government. MDOT has a strategy that gets us through 2045. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation has a strategic plan that we're really like making strides towards achieving some of their job creation numbers, community development numbers. We have a My Healthy Climate plan that focuses on making Michigan a carbon neutral state by 2050. And so really the goal of the My Future Mobility Plan was to stitch all those together, bring those together, be an aggregator. So if those are all the strategies I just mentioned were airlines, think of our strategy like Expedia, where we tried to, as best we could, reference the things these different strategies have in common, and then sort of create goals and actions off of those things so that we're all sort of reading off of the same script, making sure that economic development is always on the minds of MDOT and transportation infrastructure always on the mind, for instance, of the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity people. Government should feel small. It should feel like everyone's talking. And I think that strategy was meant to create a system for that. It's already happening, but the goal is to create a system. Sorry, this was like a lightning round, and I feel like I went way longer. My apologies.
Well, but I think that's fine because it's the first one, and it kind of sets the stage for everything else. So getting into the other components of all that, you include on your list building America's first road that would be customized for driverless vehicles. That's the CAVNU project that we've talked a lot about. So, give me some insights on that.
Yeah. I mean, if it works, and it will, you've now created a road that's safer, leveraging new technologies, both hardware and software technologies. You created a road that avoids congestion, which can help both transit, but then also sort of those auto logistics companies that are, time is money, that need to get to the assembly plant in 5 to 10 minutes or else something's wrong in the line, or just folks that want to get to a doctor's appointment. Those are the kind of roads where you can get it right. You can get this recipe right on this corridor. You can mimic it all over the state and all over the world.
So some of these touch MDOT and involve tremendous MDOT involvement and partnership, and some don't, but the first few definitely do. And so the next one I'm wondering about your take on is a first road, that does inductive charging, that actually can charge a vehicle as you drive across.
I would say, and we worked on a lot of futuristic concepts. This one to me was the most futuristic. I was like, I cannot believe I'm working on this the whole time, even now. But it's going to be the first mile of road. But MDOT's actually signed an agreement with the company that's helping us, Electrion, to explore other systems of roads, whether it's college campuses, hotel or hospital campuses, or parts of cities, or other, there may be industry parks. But essentially, this technology is a great solution for those vehicles that have routine. Think buses, think transit vehicles. Or, sorry, I just said buses, but think like delivery vans. So I think by providing road infrastructure like this, you really create an incentive for small, mid-sized businesses, cities to begin to flip their fleets, and that's the goal.
Yeah, that's a good goal. How about development of a signature EV route around Lake Michigan, the circuit that we've talked about before? An
electrified Route 66 for the people. This is a perfect example of something that sometimes people say that mobility is a Detroit thing, not being true. I mean, mobility is a Michigan thing, and it extends, not just into the lower peninsula, but upwards across the upper peninsula and around the Great Lakes. And so this will be a signature EV route with really world-class charging infrastructure and easy access to finding where that infrastructure is. And while you're charging, why not spend time in one of those cool tourist towns that really sort of like embody what pure Michigan is? And so we're really excited about this one. And the fact that it was a circuit, it was the governor's idea, first of all, which is I just think is a really cool idea. And we actually talked to other states, and they're like, man, that's really cool. Could we make it a loop? And so now Wisconsin and Illinois and Indiana are in the mix. And that's the role Michigan should play. We should be the first on these things. We should be the ones that drive it forward and then inspire other states. We need to compete against other states sometimes, but sometimes it's good to have other states be inspired, and then we collaborate with them like they're a part of us. I love that one.
It's somewhat derivative of the Circle Tour, right? That's the idea.
100%. Yeah.
And talk about America's first smart parking lab.
Yeah. So I love this one too, just because of all the different things you can do. Not just what happens when the car's stationary, which is 95% of the time, but also the active parking. You can begin to reinvent parking garages into, say, fulfillment centers for goods. As we have a more on-demand society, people want things sooner. And then as we think about the future of charging in parking garages, do we need all the hardware of a station? Could we just have the spot charge the vehicle, much like our inductive charging corridor, but while the car is stationary? And so this was a really interesting public-private partnership because it wasn't just automotive companies. Like Ford was involved, Bosch was involved. But then we also like Rocket family of companies, Rocket Mortgage. It's just because they own a bunch of property, much like all these other non-mobility companies do. So regardless of if you're in the auto industry or mobility industry or not, mobility is still an issue, and smart infrastructure is still something you got to think about. And I think the parking garage is very much an asset that maybe starts in the auto and mobility industry, but definitely extends quickly into other industries. And I'm excited about what's going to come in that lab over the next year.
Yeah, I think that'll be exciting to watch too. What about the first feasibility study for cross-border drone skyways? That's something, again, that the aeronautics division at MDOT has been helping with.
They're great. I love that team at MDOT. And what this will do is allow us to begin to understand what the use cases are. What are the situations where a drone makes sense? Is it there's a traffic jam and someone has a heart attack and we need to get a drone in there because it's the only way to truly get the proper medical devices or medical support? Or is it something else where there's an issue, at the border and we need something to cross? It's not, obviously not a large amount of something, but something to cross that's important. Could we use drones? And what are some of the laws? What are some of the ways you could break those laws? Basically understanding all the variables, throwing all the puzzle pieces out on the table, and then working together to try to understand if we were to do a skyway network in Southeast Michigan and parts of Canada, but then also even up in Traverse City, that's one of the areas. Like, what are the best uses of that in a way, in a way that doesn't disrupt, but only adds value to the people it serves.
And what about the Midwest's first airport innovation lab in Grand Rapids, of all places?
Yeah. We just actually made some news on that. I think it was this week we announced another round of technologies. But we work with the airport and Southwest Airlines to roll out various types of new mobility solutions first in Grand Rapids. And if they work in Grand Rapids, they then are considered for other Southwest hubs. And we actually, the model for that was laid out early in the pandemic when we had cleaning robots in the Grand Rapids airport. And they worked so well. It was with the company Pratt Miller. They rolled out in DTW and then ultimately LaGuardia. And so the thinking was, could Grand Rapids continue to be that lab? It just seems like the perfect size airport. And so some of the cool things we've done, we've made a digital twin of the entire airport to run various security scenarios, we have autonomous wheelchairs, autonomous lawnmowers. We've rolled out various types of technology to help folks find a parking spot faster, help their bag get to the plane a bit faster. So I really do think that's a fun, rapidly growing initiative that I think really does allow us to begin to enter into a national conversation or lead a national conversation on what the future of airports looks like. Because we can't just always be the leader in the auto conversations. We also need to lead in some of these other modes.
It's all mobility.
Amen.
So talk about, you would call it, I guess, a first of its kind partnership to attract tech workers to Michigan Central Innovation District, basically the former depot in Corktown, which has been transformed by Ford Motor Company into a beautiful building again.
Yeah. If you had great grandparents that lived in Michigan, it's a good chance that they walked through those doors, and that was the first time they saw Michigan. So that building holds so much history, and it's been abandoned since I think 1988. And so what Bill Ford and Ford Motor Company is doing is just transformational. It's not just the train station; they bought buildings around the train station, and have spent, I think, over $1 billion now. If you think about all the different costs associated, and the state's been a great partner. But the thing is, it's not enough to build it. You actually need to activate it. And so that's what we worked with the Ford team, the city of Detroit, and others at the state to rally a public-private partnership to activate the district and actually bring 5,000 tech workers, then 2,500 non-Ford, and then ultimately we'll have 2,500 Ford and Ford partners in the space. So it's not just a Ford campus. It literally is something that's going to be open to everybody. And we just think once you can create that global mobility hub, and there's even a special testing zone that City Council just approved that accelerates a lot of the permitting it takes to roll out a new technology, and allows some of the Corktown residents, Southwest Detroit residents to experience it first. I mean, how cool is that? Like if someone in Corktown tries something, they like it, they could be the reason it ends up in vehicles all over the world or intersections all over the world. So as much as it's a cool set of buildings that are being reestablished, and as much as it's going to be a job creator, it's going to also improve the communities around it. And that's why I'm so excited about it.
Well, just everything that's gone on there. I mean, since Tiger Stadium shut down more than 20 years ago, for a long time, that whole district was a bit of a ghost town. And now, in the past decade or so, what's gone on with the development, even predating that, and that's just making it take off. But the number of people homesteading there and buying condos and the bars and restaurants, and it's really cool.
Absolutely.
Lastly, why don't you talk about the NEVI plan and what Michigan's doing, with EV charging, and thanks to the IIJA and some money from the federal government.
Yeah. So I mean, our office has just been a support mechanism, I think, to the good work that MDOT is doing, and it's a great example of departments needing to come together. I mean, MDOT owns all those roads, 28,000 miles worth. The money ultimately from DOT is going to flow through MDOT. But then you have EGLE, our Department of Energy, that owns the charging station program and the installation and all the different service components. And then you obviously got others like the DTMB that also purchases chargers. And then you have our office, which is meant to sort of be a bridge, a project manager to make sure that $110 million is spent in the best optimized way we can spend it to ensure that we can eliminate electric vehicle range anxiety in the state. And so that NEVI plan and what it is, it's part of the Biden infrastructure plan. It's $110 million along certain designated corridors, which are in our state, mostly interstates, to begin to install chargers at max, I believe it's 50 miles apart. And they can't be more than a mile or two away from the intersection or away from the corridor. And so we're going to be, our plan was approved by the federal government. And now we're working together to begin sort of the next stage, the implementations phase. And I think this is one of those projects that when it's done, regardless of where you're at in the state, you're going to see the difference. It's going to feel a little easier to buy an electric vehicle, to operate an electric vehicle. And when you begin to do that, you begin to see the cost savings, right? I mean, you look at the Ford F-150 Lightning, it's the lowest cost to own over the life of the vehicle of any F-150 they've ever produced. People think it costs the same amount to charge a vehicle as it does to put gas in it. No, it's like $8 to $12, regardless of the vehicle. So people can begin to see the cost savings. And I think that's when, EV adoption is really going to take off. So I will be watching from afar. I'm really excited about where the state's going. I mean, we've been set up by great MDOT leadership, great leadership at the governor's office, great leadership across state departments, and the team at OFME. I can't say enough about my team. I mean, I stood on the shoulders of giants. I've been telling their story. All these projects we're talking about, they did them.
Yeah, there's still more to come, and I always appreciate your enthusiasm and just the job that you've done promoting our state and everything that we're doing. And we always talk about the cliche that Michigan put the world on wheels, and whatever's next, however we're going to be traveling, wheels or something else, it's important that Michigan remains in the lead. And I think that a lot of what you've done with that office and all the partners that you mentioned has put us in a good position.
Thank you, man. I really, really appreciate that. And working with you has also been awesome. You have a way of explaining these technologies and these projects that gets people excited and helps people understand it and be able to repeat it, tell their friends. You have a gift, and it's been cool to watch that play out or listen to that play out during these podcasts. So I'm gonna miss working with you.
Well, best of luck on safe travels, and enjoy watching your kids grow up. I know you will.
All right, take care, Jeff.
I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of the Talking Michigan Transportation Podcast. You can find show notes and more information at either the Buzzsprout site or on Apple Podcasts. I also want to thank the people who work on this podcast and make it as good as it can be each week. Chiefly Randy Debler, who does the audio editing. Also Jackie Salinas, who puts the transcript together. Jesse Ball, who proofreads the show notes. And Courtney Bates, who posts the podcasts on the various platforms.